Oh, we stay in France for our next story, where talks between union leaders and Emmanuel Macron's government continue over his highly unpopular pension reform. Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne then has been meeting with unions who say they remain firmly opposed to it, despite the reform now being signed into law. Well, unions say other concerns on their agenda are the lack of employee pay rises and public spending. Let's talk more about this with France 24's Clovis Casali, who joins me here in the studio. What more can you tell us about these ongoing talks?
Well, these talks are in the wake, of course, of these mass protests, mass strikes across France in previous months. And when the French government pushed through, should I say, the pension reform at the National Assembly with Article 49.3, while Emmanuel Macron addressed the French people, said, let's launch a 100 days of appeasement, unity and ambition. And that's why Matignon, the Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne, is trying to reignite, revive talks with unions. There is unity among trade unions. They all want the government to back down on this pension reform. It's not going to happen, presumably. Yesterday, you had the more moderate, the largest union, CFDT, who turned up at Matignon and who said it's only a first step. Relations are still icy. You will need a lot more to warm them up. And then you've got, of course, the CGT meeting today with Elisabeth Borne.
Right, well, that's the position of the other unions, but very unlikely ultimately.
Unlikely, and the CGT was actually reluctant to come and take part in these talks precisely because they know the government's not going to back down. But CGT boss, the new boss, Sophie Binet, has a few other issues she wants to have raised, notably regarding labour laws. She is advocating for a new 4-day work week, 32 hours. A lot of countries say, wait a minute, France, you've got 35 hours working weeks. You want 32 hours? Well, that's what she wants. And what she's arguing for. She's also trying to put in the limelight different cases, protests, strikes going on in France, notably in Tourcoing in the northern part of France, which is also the city of Interior Minister Darmanin. Well, there is a strike taking place there. It was dispersed by police, and that's also why she wants to talk about that with Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne, so that she actually does something about that issue. And of course, as you said, the CGT and other unions want all salaries to go up along with prices. You can feel the inflation here in France and in the rest of the world, while the unions like the CGT want the French government to do something to raise all salaries.
OK. Well, regarding the pension reform, Clovis, the opposition is still very much hoping for change, right?
And there is a slim hope that the government will drop this pension reform. President Macron said it's the only way to reduce deficits. It's the only way to save the pension system in France. But there is an independent group of MPs called Lyotte at the National Assembly who's planning, it's one of these parliamentary rules, they're going to put forward a law to drop the pension reform. They're going to do that on June the 8th. But the French government has already warned we are ready to trigger Article 40. What is Article 40? When a law is dubbed unconstitutional because it's creating too many public spendings, too high public spendings. The French government says this law put forward by this independent group, Lyotte, would cost 15 billion euros to the French government. It's not possible, according to the government. So the opposition is furious. The unions are furious, and notably the CGT, the most left-wing large union. Let's take a listen to Sophie Binet, and that's what she said this morning.
It shows that the government is panicking. If the law does go through to a vote, it would be a huge blow to the government. If not, they wouldn't be performing all of these manoeuvres. The anti-democratic manoeuvres must stop. It would be very concerning if the deputies are once again prevented from voting on the pension reform.
And just to finish, Sophie Binet on that radio show saying she's not going to Matignon to discuss the pension reform. She's got friends and colleagues to discuss that. She's there to negotiate. But the government has already warned, we're not backing down.
Right, so still a lot going on, a lot to be decided. But as you say, slim chance of things changing. Clovis, for now, thank you.